Good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Forrest. I work at the Athenaeum. I'm one of the adult program coordinators along with Daniel Griffin, who's also on the call tonight. A little bit of housekeeping, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I may stop at certain points or I may just plow through, but I will for sure leave time at the end for questions. And I will be able, I have everyone's email, so I'll be able to send out my PowerPoint presentation at the end. And you're welcome to chime in with questions. I just ask that if there's noise in the background or you have to take a phone call, just please take a moment and mute yourself. And let me go ahead and share my screen. So as I said, my name is Janet Forrest. I'm in addition to my work at the library, I'm a certified professional life coach. I work with people on a number of challenges, but the common thread is helping people figure out what it is they're trying to achieve and why, and what they need to do to get there, and coming up with a realistic plan. So for the next 3 weeks, this is the first of 3 sessions, we're going to be talking about finding your off-season routine. We're going through a seasonal change right now, and we're in unusual times, so I thought this would be a useful topic. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on creating structure and accountability. The other 2 classes next week will focus on finding a purpose and staying focused. And the 3rd week will be overcoming obstacles. Okay, what we will cover tonight is understanding your routine goals, using strategies for success, creating accountability, and getting back on track when things go wrong. You'll notice I've used italics for when. And think about this as trial and error and experimenting. There's things that will go well. There's things that will go not as planned. So don't think about setting something up and sticking to it no matter what. Think of this as a process that you're going to rewrite as you go along. So let's talk about goals for a moment. What is your routine for? Knowing the goal of your routine. So there's a couple questions you could ask yourself. What do you want to achieve with your routine? Is it something like increasing productivity? Are you focusing on your health, whether that's mental or emotional? Are you trying to incorporate more downtime into your week? Or are you trying to reduce stress and anxiety? It could be it could be other goals, but understand what it is you're trying to do, because that will influence and affect the activities and actions and habits you incorporate into your week. Another question to ask yourself is, what problems are you trying to solve with your routine? Are you feeling a lot of chaos and not structured? Are you looking to find normalcy? Are you a little bit bored and uninspired and you're trying to reduce your boredom? Or are there any specific habits that you're trying to start or break? So now that we've talked about a little bit of goals, and I would take the time to spend some time on the front end, because when you know what you're trying to do, it'll make everything else a little bit easier. Okay, so the first step is creating some structure, and in doing so, I want to give you some tips on setting yourself up for success. And please keep in mind, everything I offer you tonight is in fact an offering. It's not a one size fits all. So there's things that will make sense and work for you, and there's other things that you might, but that might not work. So the first thing I would say, and this can be hard, is to start small. So if you're thinking that I want to get more sleep and I want to change my diet and eat better, and I want to exercise, that's a lot of life change to incorporate all at once. So what I would say is pick one of those things and work on incorporating 1 or 2 actions at a time. And in doing so, choose actions that are fail-proof and achievable, so that you're at the end of the day or the end of the week, you can look back and check them off your list and see that you did them, as opposed to kind of biting off more than you can chew and looking back and be like, oh, I wish I did better. And also trust the process and be patient, because if you're going for sustainable change, it's going to take time. And just like they tell you what to do when you're saving money, is small actions add up. So doing small things and mastering those, and then adding to that, you'll see the success. It just takes a little bit of time. But I think you'll find that you're more likely to stick to it and see lasting change. Another thing to keep in mind is to build on existing structure. So I would bet that everyone has certain things they do every day or every week. So identify the existing structure that you have and add to it. And a good example of this is, there was a woman that came to one of my workshops. I think it might have been goal setting. And her problem was that she had all this mail that had piled up on her table, and it was just so much mail, and she was so overwhelmed. And instead of tackling it, she would just add to it. It was just too much for her to handle. So when she left class, she said, you know what I'm going to do this week? I've realized I have tea every morning, and I steep my tea, and then I sit there and drink it. So what I'll do is I'll go out to my mailbox, I'll get my mail, and while my tea is steeping and while I'm drinking my tea, I can go through my mail in that time, which is maybe 20 minutes or a half hour. And when she came back the next week, she was so excited, because not only had she been keeping up with the mail that was coming in, she had gone through, or was most of the way through, the pile that had built up over time. So by taking something that she does every day anyway and adding to it, that worked really well for her. Also, understand what activities will work at certain times. Most people have a time of day that they're more alert and more focused. And it also depends on what you're trying to do. If what you're trying to do is reduce anxiety, if you're going to do something calming, maybe you want to do that at the end of the day when you're winding down. If you're starting to work out, there's people that want to do workouts first thing in the morning, or they never get it done. Or they want to do it at the end of the night, burn off some of that excess energy, and then go to bed. So understand what time of day will work for the activity you're trying to incorporate. Work with what you have. Like I said, there's trial and error in this. So instead of investing a lot of time, energy, or money into equipment or classes or big projects, look around you and see what resources you have at your disposal and start with that. So if you're someone who decides you're going to get into yoga because that's just the most important thing, before you go out and buy yoga blocks and mats and buy a monthly pass, maybe you could borrow a mat from a friend and see if it works for you, and then go from there. And remember to, I'll touch on this again, but remember to be kind to yourself and start wherever you're at. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And when we're going to try something new, it might be something that we take to very naturally, or it might be something that's very hard for us. And so just remember to meet yourself where you're at, and you'll be less likely to get discouraged and more realistic in what it is you're trying to do. I'm just going to check. I think someone might have popped in. Oop, here we go. Okay. Oops. Another thing to think about is assessing and reassessing your routine as you go along. So depending on how much you're incorporating or what your routine looks like, maybe at the end of a week or the end of 2 weeks, look back and reflect on what is working well and what's not working. And there's bound to be a little bit in each category. So what's working well, how's it going? And then also, if something's not working, why isn't it working? What came up? What do you need to change? And also keep in mind, is what you are doing getting you the results you wanted? So you might have incorporated a whole bunch of things that made you a lot more productive, but if your goal is to reduce anxiety and stress, you are getting a lot done, but you might have actually fact increased your stress and anxiety. So make sure the things you're incorporating into your routine are getting you what you want. And this I tell clients all the time, no matter what we're doing, is be honest with yourself. Be honest about what you're struggling with, what's missing in your life, what do you need, and what would make your day-to-day life better. And I think it's really easy. You'll see at the bottom I wrote, avoid comparisons and don't should on yourself, especially now with social media. It's really easy to look around and think, oh, those people are doing that and they seem so happy, and maybe I should be doing that. Or, you know, gosh, I'm feeling, I'm seeing everyone that wants to socialize. I should be more social. I should be interacting with people. But in reality, what you really need is some alone time, or maybe just one-on-one connection. So really think about what it is that you need and attend to that. And sometimes it's not what you want to address. You wish you had other people's problems, but you kind of have to deal with what's in front of you if you're going to get through it. So be honest with yourself. Before I explain this, does anyone have any questions or comments before I move forward? No? Okay. So this is something, I'm going to go over this quickly because I'm actually going to delve into it more deeply next week as we talk about staying focused and finding a purpose. But I think it can be helpful. And this action, energy action model helps you measure and understand how engaged you are with a particular activity or an action. So I think you can probably see my mouse moving around. Over here on the left, you'll see your energy profile. That's basically how you're feeling. So catabolic energy is associated with stress and anxiety and fear and feeling like a victim and at the mercy of your circumstances. It's destructive and constricting. So that's catabolic energy. At the end of the spectrum, you have anabolic energy, which is expanding. It's associated with joy and peace and connection and seeing opportunity everywhere. So you want to think about how you're showing up and how you're feeling at any given circumstance. And then you have your stimulus response. So this is your response to the action, or in this case, the routine you're trying to implement. So I use the example of physical exercise because it's just kind of easy to use. But so let's say you're someone there's someone who's trying to incorporate physical activity into their routine, but they might actually be in poor physical health, or they might actually even be in physical pain, and they're kind of afraid of what to do. They don't really know what to do, and they're feeling a lot of anxiety over this. So let's say that person runs into an acquaintance and says, oh, you want to start exercising? I go to a yoga class at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. Why don't you come? It's 90 minutes every day. Now, to someone who's feeling not their best, that might be a daunting proposal. And so in that case, they're not going to be very engaged in that activity. They're not going to feel that motivation to participate. Now, let's say that same person gets approached by a friend they really trust and like, and that person says, hey, I'm also trying to exercise. So how about I pick you up and we go for a walking trail next Thursday? The weather's supposed to be lovely. And tell you what, we'll walk for 15, 20 minutes, and at any point you want to turn around and go home, I'm game to go home. Now, this person might still be feeling fearful and concerned about starting, but that proposal is probably a little bit more tempting. It's something that is a little bit more achievable for them. So in that case, it's enhancing their energy, and their engagement will be a little higher. It might be still limited, it might be still conditional, but they're a little more engaged than they were before. Now, let's take another example of another person, and they're feeling great about their life. They're feeling that they have a lot of social support. They're feeling ambitious and motivated, and they're looking for a new opportunity, and they can't wait to try something new. And that person gets approached by a friend and saying, hey, we're going to do our Friday morning walk, right? The place we go every single week. Now, that person can physically do it. They like this person, they'll probably do it, but that's not exactly what they're looking for. So even though they're feeling great, that's an activity that might detract their energy, detract from how they're feeling. However, if that same friend calls up this same person and says, guess what? The land bank just opened a new trail. I have never been there before. It's brand new. Do you want to go walk with me? We can go get lost in the woods and have a great afternoon. Now, in that case, not only is this person feeling great, they found an activity that's enhancing their energy. So their engagement level is going to be sky high. So that's essentially how this works. And what you can do for each thing you're going to incorporate into your routine or you're considering, figure out where it falls in this matrix. How are you feeling at the moment? And is this activity going to detract from how you're feeling, or is it going to enhance your energy? I went over that pretty quickly, but I'm going to go into it more deeply next week. Okay, so we talked about creating a goal, why you're trying to create this routine, what you're trying to achieve. We've talked about setting yourself up for success in terms of your strategy and what you want to incorporate. And now let's talk about creating some accountability so that you stay motivated and you stay on track. So there's two ways to do this. One is self-accountability. There's lots of research out there that even writing down a goal or saying it out loud makes you much more likely to achieve it. So that's one way to do this. Another way is to establish rewards. So I just recently started taking violin lessons again, and I'm trying to remember to practice 3 times a week. So something I might do for myself is say, all right, if by Saturday I've practiced 3 times, on Sunday I'll buy myself lunch. And then this third one is something that's available on your phone or devices is a habit app. The one I'm working with now is called Done, D-O-N-E. And what they allow you to do is enter the habits you're trying to establish. It could be anything. And then it allows you to do all these settings. So how many times a week do you want to do it? How are you measuring it? Is it by time or number of times you do it? Are there specific days you do it? You can really drill down and create a lot of accountability through these apps. You can set notifications. I'm not going to show you now, but at the end, if you're curious, I can show you the one that I just downloaded to my phone. So that's some self-accountability you can create for yourself. What can be more effective, I think, is creating external accountability for yourself. And one way to do this is to ask a friend or ask a therapist or a life coach. The bonus of working with a therapist or a coach is they're going to have the skills and the training to ask very effective questions as you're creating this routine. So what are you trying to accomplish? Why is it important to you? Are you setting realistic goals for yourself? How are you going to, are they measurable? But even lots of times just talking to a friend you trust and telling them what you're trying to accomplish will do the same thing. Another way to create external accountability is to partner with someone. My boyfriend Andrew is just finished, well, he's finished a couple books by a positive psychologist his name's Sean Acker. I can put his name in the chat at the end. And he talks a lot about gratitude. So something Andrew and I've been doing, we have dinner together most nights, and we each come up with 3 things we're grateful for that day. And what's great about that is if lots of times I forget because it was his idea. So he's there to remind me, and there's been some nights where he forgets, so I'm there to remind him. So when you're partnering with someone, you're just more likely to do it because they're counting on you. So if you were, there's lots of running groups, that sort of thing. When people are counting on you to show up, you're more inclined to do it. And another way to create external accountability is to do something that requires a scheduled appointment. And I've used this in my life because I'm a morning person. I'm likely to get up early, but I'm also liable to, I'm likely to dawdle, and I'll have some tea and I'll read the paper. And then before I know it, it's 10:30 and I haven't gotten anything done. So an opportunity that's presented itself to me is I work with animals. So I have 2 different barns I work at. So on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there's a barn that has goats, and I'm there first thing in the morning. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I go to a different barn that has horses. And The other thing this does for me that I like is it gets me outside every day, which can be really, really helpful. And it means even on the worst, coldest, windiest, crappiest day in winter, it means I have to suit up and go outside for at least an hour. And it's not something I can cancel last minute. It's something that I just have to keep on my calendar. And it's enough to get me out, up and out in the morning and then get my day started. So that's something I've done for myself. Okay, so we've talked about accountability. So even with a clear goal and realistic expectations and some accountability, there's going to come a time where things go off the rail. And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm going through a transition right now. The days are a little shorter. I've had some unexpected, well, not unexpected, but different things come up in my routine. I went away for a weekend. There's a few projects I'm working on. So the last week or so, my routine has kind of gone out the window. But in reality, I probably was going to be adjusting anyway. So this is something you should expect. Things are going to go wrong. But something that can be helpful is to look out for the downward spiral, which that's when things really go off the rails. And I think I'll use the example of someone who's trying to get more sleep. They might set off with the best intentions Sunday evening and say, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 10 and the next morning I'm going to get up at 6 and I'm going to do that every day going forward. And you know, Monday comes, they get up at 6, Monday night, they go to bed at 10, it's going well. And then they get to Wednesday and they have kind of a crazy busy day and they find out they have some extra work to get done and they end up staying up till 11. And then they don't get as much sleep, so they end up sleeping in a little bit and they don't get up at 6. And then they're kind of thrown off and their schedule's a little wacky and they get to bed at 10 that night, but then they're just feeling off, so they sleep in again. And then all of a sudden they're feeling tired, so they nap, but then they can't sleep at night. And then it's Friday evening and they think, oh, well, it's the weekend. What does it matter? I'll just give up and I'll start fresh next week. So that's how things can just really go down the tubes. And I think when you can stop yourself and take a moment and say, okay, I didn't achieve it today, but what can I do? What's one thing I can do to get back on track? So here's some things to keep in mind if you're going to try to reverse the downward spiral. The first thing I would recommend is remember your goal or your purpose. Sometimes remembering why it is you're doing what you're doing is enough to get you back on track. And I would also say, take one baby step. What's one tiny thing that might help you get back on track? So say that first night, you end up staying up late, and then the next morning you sleep in a little bit. What I might do in that circumstance is say, okay, I'm going to set an alarm for 10 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning. And then it becomes a conscious choice because I'm going to hear that alarm go off. So at 10 o'clock at night, even if I'm caught up in what I'm doing or I'm watching TV and not paying attention or I'm doodling on my phone, I'll have an alarm to remind me, okay, this is when I said I would go to bed. And maybe I ignore it and I stay up late. Or maybe I choose to do it, but it becomes a little bit more of a choice as opposed to an unconscious just action that like a unconscious reaction to a situation or just not paying attention. So that's one baby step I might take to get back on track. And then the other thing that can be helpful is realistic self-talk. And I would define this as positive and believable. I think I'll see online and in emails and newsletters a lot of inspirational quotes and aspirational photographs and wording and newsletters. And then it's great and it can be helpful. But if you're feeling discouraged or you're feeling kind of angry about how things are going, sometimes you need to meet yourself where you're at. And there was actually an article in the New York Times Magazine not that long ago where they reference a few different psychologists and therapists who say it's really important that your self-talk is believable to you. And if you're feeling discouraged and you say something like going back to the sleeping example, I might say, I can do this. I'm going to do it perfectly for the next month because I'm going to work really hard and do this. And that might be something in the moment, if I'm overtired and kind of cranky, that I don't even believe. So something I might say in that moment that might be a little bit more believable to me is that this is really important, and tonight I'm going to do my best to be in bed at 10. So using self-talk that's believable to you. And then the fourth thing that can be helpful is daily 3 lists. And there's 2 ways I've learned to do this. One is, like I talked about before, a gratitude list. And what you can do is, when you get up in the morning, you can do it on your phone or a piece of paper or whatever however you want to track it. Come up with 3 things you're grateful for. And then around 10 or 11 in the morning, refresh the list. Maybe a few things have changed. Maybe something's moved up. Maybe it's all new stuff. And then around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, refresh the list again. And then before bedtime, refresh the list again. And what it's doing is training your brain to look for the positives, to look for what's good going on in your life. And it can help you be more optimistic. The other way to do this, especially if you're working on a routine that's creating more productivity, is to create a list of 3 things you're going to do that day. And so either do it first thing in the morning or at the end of the previous day. And what you want to keep in mind for these 3 things you're going to get done that day is they should be realistic and achievable by the end of the day. They should be outside of things you're going to do anyway. So I'm a little bit of a messy person. I don't make my bed every day. So if my goal is to create a routine where my house is much more tidy and I don't make my bed every day, then maybe that's something I would add to my list. But if it's something you do anyway, then you want to think of something else. And then you want to make sure these things are aligned with your goals, because that's what you're working on. Oops. There we go. And I brought this up briefly before, but as you're going through all of this, I really encourage you to be kind to yourself and understand that this is hard. And if it weren't hard, you wouldn't be here Wednesday night listening to me talk about creating a routine. Just really remember to be kind to yourself. It's here's some background noise. I was just going to go ahead and. Okay. Oops. Got ahead of myself. There we go. Okay. So in line with being kind to yourself, these points can be helpful when you are assessing and reassessing your plan and your goal and your routine. Observe, but don't judge. So as you're creating your routine, really pay attention to creating measurable, achievable goals and notice, and that way you can, at the end of the week, you can look back and notice measurable results. It's not, oh, well, this is like kind of good or kind of bad. You want to be able to say black or white, I did what I said I was going to do, or I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And then just reflect. Instead of kind of kicking yourself, reflect on what worked and why it worked, because that's going to help you going forward. And also reflect on what didn't work and why it didn't work. Because lots of times there's a very valid reason. I think it's really easy when things don't go the way you thought it would to be like, oh, I'm just lazy, or I'm a procrastinator, or I can't change, or I don't know how to do this. Lots of times if you think back and it's like, well, it would have worked if I could just do it at a different time, or it would have worked if I had the resources I need. Or another big thing I didn't include it here, but I'm just thinking of now, if you have a spouse or kids or roommates, maybe part of your routine, you need to work out with the people you live with or your coworkers or other people around you, so that that you can coordinate that and everything works. And if you really are struggling with judging yourself and being harsh on yourself, I think I heard this on a podcast, but I can't remember originally where I heard this, but think, what would you say to your 5-year-old self? Or what would you say to a 5-year-old child? Because when a kid tries something and doesn't work out, we don't go, oh, you loser, why didn't you try harder? You go, okay, what happened? How can I help you? What would make this work better? I really think you can do this. So when you're thinking about if you're feeling a little discouraged, think about what you would say to your 5-year-old self. Oops. Okay. And I'm going to leave you with 2 thoughts. The first is, when you minimize the challenge, you minimize the success. As I said before, this can be really hard, and there's no reason to look around and say, well, everyone else is doing it, it's really, really easy. If it was really, really easy, you'd already be doing it. And in thinking, oh, this is really easy, when you achieve it, you're going to minimize the success and the effort that you put in. And finally, feeling the reward will help remind you how you got there. So understanding the skills and qualities that you're developing as you do this will help you build on them and reassess your routine, because this is going to be a constant process. The world changes, life changes, we change. So your routine is going to change as you go along. So understanding what's working well and what you're doing well will help you in the future. And that is all I have for you tonight. I would love to hear feedback, thoughts, and questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. And my email is down here at the bottom, janet@janetforrest.com, if you'd like to contact me directly. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? No, I solved everyone's problems. I did mute everyone, so you'll have to go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
I think what's real is I've got a couple of things that, and I think I'm going to prioritize and not try to do too much. So that's what I'm going to take away right now from, as well as a lot of other things. But right now, that's not hit, because I was trying to do it all today. It doesn't work. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Anyone else? As I said, next week we're going to be talking about finding purpose in uncertainty, which can be difficult when you can't plan and you don't know what's happening tomorrow or the next day or next 6 months. So finding purpose and staying focused. If there's anything in particular that you're struggling with, if you want to send, I'll put my email in the chat. Actually, I'll put my library email in the chat. Oh, and actually, since we have time, here we go. That's my email in the chat. Since we have time, I can show everyone the app that I use for habits. I just downloaded. I used to use one a few years ago. I haven't used one in a while, but I thought this was a good time to download. Let's see if we can make this work. Okay, oops. Let's see. Okay, there we are. Oops, how do I? Okay, can people see my phone?
mm-hmm.
Okay. There we go. Let's see. Right. And here it is. So this is the app, the Done app. And so just for the purpose of this workshop, I created a couple habits. So you just have to enter your name and an email to start an account. It's not hard. And then, so what I'll do is go into settings, which is the bottom left, and it allows you to, oh, these are all the other settings. Hold on, wait. Get it done. Okay, there's a little plus sign at the bottom that I'm going to click on. So that's if you want to create a new habit. So I'm going to create a new habit. I'm going to call it meditate. And then, so you could use this to build or quit a habit. You can choose your goal period. So are you doing this like monthly or yearly or weekly or daily? So I'm going to do daily. Oops, I'm going to do weekly actually. And then you're going to set your goals. So blank or more times per week. I'm going to do 3. I'm not sure what default count is. Let's skip that. And then I'm going to do it on Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I'll make it pink. You can set reminders. Let's see. Oh, my reminders are different. Let's see. I'm still learning this one. Show target reminder. None. And then you can write down here a motivational comment. So I'm going to put sleep better. Who doesn't want to do that? Okay. Done. Then I go up here and I save. And then I'll see it here. So then what you do is each time you do it, say I meditate tonight, I'm going to go ahead and click that. All right. I guess I have to fix that. Hold on. Sorry, everyone. I'll do it on my violin. It's not specified. So say I played my violin today. I click on that. Click OK. So now it's tracking how many times I played my violin. So that's essentially how it worked. I'm new to this app. I was more familiar with another one I used. And then if you click on the bottom right, it'll show you your stats. So I only downloaded this the other day, so there won't be a lot of stats, but it'll track all your habits. So this is good for things that things you're planning to do long term. And yeah, I think it can be helpful. So I'm going to stop this share. Oops, how do I do that? There we go. Oh, that's nice. Good, nice comments, everyone. Thank you. Okay, well, I think I will wrap up unless there's any other questions or comments.
I really like the energy action model, and I look forward to hearing more about that next week.
Yeah, I'll send everyone the PowerPoint I have, but next week I'm going to go into something I work with people on, and I was trained in is energy leadership. So understanding the lens you're looking through, and how do you shift that so that, you know, whatever you're approaching, you approach with a different, looking through a different lens. So yeah, that can be important. Okay. All right, going once. Going twice. All right. Well, everyone have a great night. Be sure to sign up. You have to sign up for each week. So be sure to sign up for next week's class if you'd like to hear that. And they will all be recorded. So you'll be able to see it on YouTube. And you can email me for the link, and I'll probably send it out to everyone once it's available.